So welcome to webinar number 12, where we'll be talking about data analytics, reporting, and open data. So time to level up. The Level Up program is a Sunshine Coast council-funded program aimed at helping small and medium businesses connect to the NBN where available and fully utilize digital tools, innovation principles, and business solutions to enable them to improve their productivity, profitability, and ability to compete nationally and internationally where desired. So Yvette, who is supposed to do the intro, and hopefully will be able to join us later for the later part of this webinar, was born and raised in New Zealand and traveled for most of her 20s and eventually wound up on the Sunshine Coast in 2004. She has 2 children, aged 10 and 13, and I'm sure she would tell you a bit more about them. And she started 6 businesses, sold 2, and is currently running 3. She's been asked to speak by Google, and she has her own online show about young entrepreneurs. She's the chair of Knowledge and Professional Services Task Force and chair of the Australian Institute of Company Directors Sunshine Coast Committee. Johannes Klupfel, that's myself, originally from Germany, but moved to Australia in 2004. I've been in digital advertising since 2009 and a Google certified partner since 2012. And all my work in digital advertising has involved analyzing data and doing lots of reporting. I've moved to the sunny coast in 2012. And since then, I've worked on over 200 AdWords and Facebook accounts, managing ad spends from as little as $500 a month to some of our clients have a $20,000 a month budget. And I've been working with local plumbers or dentists and to national and international companies. And at the moment, managing around 1.8 million in spend every year. I've also been part of the winning team as part of the local and national GovHack event, which is an international hackathon that brings more than 1,800 people together to innovate, collaborate, and apply their creative skills to open government data. And I'll be talking about that a little bit more later down in the webinar. All right, so what we'll be covering today. Obviously, we'll start basic. What is data? Why data? Like, why do we need data? Data formats. What format do we find data in? What's some data sources? How can we tap into them? What tools are available to work with data, and what tools can we use to visualize data? We're looking at data data analytics, and we'll also be covering open data. All right, so let's jump right in there. As I'm talking about this, we're keeping it fairly basic, just introducing quite a few concepts. And if you're familiar with data, some of that stuff you probably know or could expand on, but we'll just try to keep it relevant for everyone. So what is data? So at the most basic level, it's basically just values that are being recorded. They could be in spreadsheets. You could have data in books. Books itself are data. You get lots of data on websites, obviously statistics, bank statements. I think we're all familiar with that. An image is data, but data only becomes insightful after it's been analyzed. So, and it's not enough to just analyze it. It's only useful if you actually do something with the insights that you gain. And so I think we all know about the open data and internet and Facebook and what they do with the data. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more. What format is data in? So I think the most basic form that most people interact with data is in existing apps. So for example, if you're running a business, if you have a website, you would be familiar with Google Analytics. Facebook, if you're running Facebook ads or just looking at your Facebook stats, that's data right there. If you're using any accounting system, Xero, MYOB, obviously your bank app, I don't know, Commonwealth Bank, ING, whatever it is that you're using, that's obviously data, like the amounts, the money is being transferred, all that's data. CRM, so your customer relationship management software, if you have one, all that is data, and we'll talk about some of what kind of data we've got in there a bit later. But it also comes in other formats. So for example, in spreadsheets, so Excel sheets, CSV files, SQL format, XML format, text format, Word documents, MP3, JPEG. So data can be in lots of different formats. And what we have to do is, or what we're trying to do as business owners is find that data and figure out ways to visualize it and use it. So why is data useful? By itself, it's useless, like quite easy to get data overload. It's only useful if you're able to apply it. So some of the ways that you can apply it is for decision making. Let's say you're running a business and work's getting a bit, you're getting a lot of work, lots of clients are coming in, and you need to hire a new staff or someone to help with the workload. If you've got good data and you can forecast how much money you'll be making, what your expenses will be, you can figure out if it makes sense to hire someone or if you just have to stretch yourself a little bit. Benchmarking. So I'm a Google partner, as I've mentioned before, and every quarter Google calls me and we'll run through similar agencies and how my agency compares to similar agencies across Australia. And so obviously there's areas where we do better, other areas where we need to improve, but we're basically comparing ourselves to other businesses in our industry and can figure out if we're doing a good job, if we need to do more work or where we land. Forecasting, especially like when it comes to finance data, I'll mention a few apps down the road where you can do some good forecasting based on your existing income and expenses as tracked by your accounting software such as Xero or MyUp or some of those. And obviously, if you can forecast for the next quarter, or even if it's just the next month, how much money is coming in, how much money is coming out, when you expect payments to come through, when you expect payments to come out. If you can, if you know what's coming, you can obviously plan for that. Planning. With any project management, like I think we're all familiar with some of the waterfall apps where you can just have your task and your projects and you figure out how long it'll take you to get a project done. And then monitoring. So a lot of the work that we do for our clients with digital advertising, we'll have to make sure that we're monitoring performance, that we're not overspending, that we're not underspending, that the money that we're spending gets the right return, we're hitting the right KPIs for our clients. And the only way that we can do this is obviously by looking at data and interpreting it correctly. So what's some data sources relevant to business? We've talked about the bank statement, obviously a profit loss statement, outstanding invoices, anything that you can pull out of Xero or MYOB or whatever else it is that you're using. Your CRM. So for example, if people go on your website, they fill out a contact form, that should go straight into your CRM. And then you want to follow up on those leads. If there's potential for to win them as a client, you want to create an opportunity. Once you close that opportunity, or once you get that opportunity, you send them a proposal. Proposal gets closed, the lead gets turned into a client or a contact. You create some tasks to follow up the client, and then you can see how long did it take you to close that opportunity. You get some interesting reports that you can do with your CRM if you've got good data in there. Obviously, project management. So anything, any task that you need to do, any project that you're working on, that's a good data source that can tell you a lot about where you're at in your business. Emails, mostly like EDM. So if you do like newsletter mailouts, that sort of thing, if you're using MailChimp or ActiveCampaign or whatever it is that you're using, obviously you can track how many emails got sent, how many emails were received, opened, clicked, and what did people do after they clicked and went on your website. And that's then where the website traffic comes in. So if you can link your MailChimp to your Google Analytics and then see in Analytics in MailChimp, you see, I don't know, 10% of the people clicked on your email, went to your website. What did they do? Did they contact you? Did they purchase a product? Did they convert any other goals? So that's like a very good data source to look at to know what's going on your website and how your business is doing on the web. Advertising spend and results. So if you're spending, if you're running Google ads, Facebook ads, obviously you've got lots and lots of data points to look at. And with all that, like, and we'll cover it a bit later as well, is looking at what sort of data points are important. So you can, in Google Analytics, there's thousands of different reports that we can look at. But if you have some basic ones set up that you check regularly, that can be really beneficial. Same in AdWords, Facebook, like at least making sure that the spend is on track and the conversions are on track. Incoming phone calls. So with voice over IP and different call tracking softwares, it's quite easy to track calls and to visually display them. So how many calls are coming in, how many calls are being answered, how many calls go to the mailbox, that sort of a thing. And that's quite, especially if you have a number of staff that should be answering your phones, and you see that half your phones are not getting answered, you know that there's something that needs to be investigated. Any competitive information, so a bit later we'll talk about open data. There's a number of ways where you can get information around competing businesses or the industry as a whole. And then the last one is ROI. So basically, what's some data points that you can set for yourself, where you can track like how effective your business is or how well your business is doing. All right, so we've got all those different data points, and we want to make them visible. So we want to see them. We just don't want to look at Excel sheets or spreadsheets. We want to ideally see some nice graphs, some metrics that make sense. And yeah, so there's a number of different tools that can be used. On the right-hand side, you'll see that's an example from a Google Analytics standard report. But there's most tools like Xero, Google Analytics, AdWords, they've built-in reports that you can send to yourself. But personally, I really like it to mix those data points together. So I have a dashboard of a report that gives me an overview of what's going on in AdWords, what's going on in Facebook, what's going on in my accounts, what's going on with my phone calls, my project management software, all that sort of stuff. If we can pull that together and display it in a nice way that makes sense and gives us some insights, that's really what we're trying to achieve. And I think a lot of that stuff, a number of these things have already been mentioned in previous webinars. So if you haven't seen them or want to revisit them, or you've missed some of them, just I'm sure there'll be a link once we're done in there. You can obviously re-watch the previous webinars as well. All right, so KPIs, what are they, and defining yours. So if you don't know what a KPI is, it's a key performance indicator, which is a measurable value that demonstrates how effectively a company is achieving key business objectives. Organizations use KPIs to evaluate their business, their success at reaching targets. Selecting the right KPIs will depend on your industry, the stage of business, goals, and which part of the business you are looking to track. So we've got a table here with some sample KPIs. I'll just start on the left and work my way across. So on the left, just talking about some financial KPIs, obviously income, how much money is coming in, cost of sale for every sale that we make, every new client that we pick up, what does it cost us to service that client, to deliver that item, and what's our gross profit, what are expenses, what's our net profit. And I think sort of the standard calculation that business owners do is income minus expenses equals profit. But I think like it's maybe, if you rethink it, income minus your profit leaves you expenses. And if you can figure out how you take the profit and then run the business with the expenses that are left, that's probably a better way to look at your finances. Right, marketing KPIs. So on your website, for example, you would have maybe a contact form, inquiry, a quote form. How many of those are getting filled out? Like, what's the percentage of people visiting the site and filling out a form? If you have a database and you're actively working on building a database, what's the size? How fast is it growing? How many new leads or contacts are you adding to your database? How much money are you spending on your marketing or advertising? And from those different channels, say you do TV ads, radio ads, newspaper, and Google, Facebook, how much money are you spending on each channel, and what's the cost per lead? And then even going further down, what's the cost per sale from those different channels? And then website traffic. If you're running an online store or a physical store, how many transactions are you doing per day, per week, per month? What's the average transaction value and the average cost per order? What's the most popular products this month? What's the best performing salesperson? What's the cost per sale, so the marketing cost per sale? There's all kinds of things that you can track and probably should be tracking if you're selling something. Help desk, so if you're in the service industry, how many support tickets are coming through? How much time does it take to resolve them? What's the satisfaction levels? Are those billable or non-billable hours? If there's recurring issues, what are they? How can you, what can you do to get on top of them? But if you don't know that there is recurring issues and your staff are just troubleshooting, obviously that makes it quite difficult. So yeah, so that's just some KPIs for you to start thinking about. And what you want to do is to decide on what some of your KPIs are. You want to capture that data in whatever system works best for you, display the data, and then make decisions based on that data. So we've got a little bit of homework for you that you can do once we're done with this webinar or next few days. Just have a think what some KPIs, what KPIs might be relevant to your business. So this may involve a discussion with your team or other business advisors, and consider what KPIs are vital for your success. So what's something that you really need to know, and which are things that are nice to know. For example, a few years ago, I was approached by a business, and they were going to hire us to run their Google ads for them. They're already for a few years running their own ads. And when I sat down with them, we looked at their marketing budget and then trying to figure out like how much it cost them to generate a sale. And so it turns out it costs them about $40 to generate a lead, and they need 10 leads to generate a sale. So $400 to generate a sale, but the average turnover per sale was only $400. So for every $400 that they've spent, they would get a sale, and it would cost them, so they would basically break even, but they've never looked at their numbers. And so once we've had those numbers in place, we can then look at, can we get cheaper leads? Can we bump up the conversion rate? Can we upsell something to increase the revenue per customer? So if you don't have those numbers, it might look good on your income statement that money's coming in, but it's quite important to have the right KPIs and work with them as you grow your business. All right, so I'm just gonna jump into some sample reports here. So a lot of them are real data, some are some sample data, but I thought it might be interesting to look at some of them. And you've probably seen a lot of these reports already, you've been in there. So this is just a Google Analytics dashboard. One of my favorite reports is the source medium view under the acquisition tab. And so basically that breaks down where the traffic to our website is coming from. So in this case, you've got Google Organic, Google CPC, which is AdWords, direct traffic. And that tells me how many sessions come from those different mediums. What's the bounce rate? What do people do on my site? So they, on average, visit 6 pages per session, spend more, almost 4 minutes on the site, and then e-commerce conversion rate, which is important for this one, 1.19%, 94 transactions. So, and then here we've got the revenue track, so we can then know how much revenue was generated by each individual source. So that's a report that I usually start with if I go into a Google Analytics account for a new website, new client. That's where I start and get started. Another one is my goals. So obviously we've thought through what we're wanting to track. In this case, the client wants to track search location to find where they can purchase a certain item. So we're tracking that here. We're also tracking contact us forms, submissions, click to calls generated, emails generated, and warranty registrations. So again, like if you have a website, what's sort of your purpose and what sort of data do you want to track? Then you'll have to set that up and somehow get that information into, in this case, Google Analytics. Obviously AdWords. So if you're running any ads, you want to know what campaigns it is that you're running, how much money are you spending, what's your conversion rate, your cost per click, all that sort of stuff. And then obviously we're already at 2 different platforms here, so I'm always a fan of bringing things together. And so for a lot of our clients, we'll create reports that look something like this. So we've got advertising spend, we've got number of conversions, clicks, impressions, total conversion value, how many people clicked on a book button, how many people called, how many emails. And like that's obviously pretty tasty. For $20,000 that we've spent, we've generated over 100. So the more money we can spend, the better. Facebook, similar, like gives me heaps of data, but I like to pull it out into small digestible numbers that make sense. And in our case, like I report once a month, because I think if you look at some of the data daily, like you freak out. If I'm managing it, I look at it a couple times a week, but you don't want to every day just keep looking at it, but you need to make sure that your trends are going in the right direction. And so one of the tools that I started using, and that's quite easy to set up, is called Sife. So that's a dashboard app that allows you to pull in data from different platforms and then display them. So in this case, I've pulled in data from Google AdWords. So we've got our cost up here, cost, impressions, clicks, and conversions. Down here, I've got some Google Analytics data. So how many page views, how many sessions, how many users, and then how many conversions and what the conversion rate is on that page. And then up here, I've pulled in some data from Xero. So that's basically just all it is displaying my income for the last 30 days and my expenses. And basically the Sife dashboard, what it does, the way you can set it up, that it refreshes automatically. And so you can look at like your last 7 days or your last 30 days and see what's been going on on your different platforms. Some other options that you can do is you can pull in data from your Facebook ads. So what's your spend, your clicks, and your conversions. Facebook pages, how many people have you reached, how many people engaged, have you been growing your likes or your clicks. YouTube, if you're running, if you get some videos on YouTube that you're promoting or that you're using on your website or in marketing material, you can pull that in quite easily. You can use a push API or Google spreadsheet to pull in calls from different, and the number of calls being generated from different numbers, depending on what platform you're using. And so what I've done with some of these, like we've set them up for clients where they have maybe 6, 7, 8 different platforms where we're pulling in data. And so just in one quick look, you get an overview of where your business at, what your business was doing for the last 30 days. It can be quite tempting to check it 20 or 30 times a day, but that's yeah, like I think it's good to have something like that you can check maybe a couple times a week, and that gives you a snapshot. So the name of that was Sife. I'll just type that in here. Just got a question what this was called. I'll mention that later again. We've got some links to that. But yeah. All right, moving on. So this is a snapshot taken from my CRM. So on the left-hand side, I have my income broken down for my business into a number of areas that I'm tracking, and same with my expenses, so I know where my money's coming from and where my money's going. And then below this, like, I've taken it out because it just didn't look good at all, but I have expected income for this month and expected expenses for this month and the coming month, as well as expected profit. So it just gives me 3 numbers, and I can see where my business is right now. Am I losing money this month, or am I making money? And what does next month look like based on my recurring revenue and potentials that I have in the pipeline. Then again, so Scythe in the top left corner, that's the logo. If you look up that website, this is just taken from some sample dashboards taken from their website, just so you can see what is possible, what kind of how you can display data. So obviously revenue can be, and expenditure can be displayed differently by month, for example. Balance sheets, which you can scroll around, revenue goal for year to date, and budget breakdown. If you're doing lots of sales, like you could have, let's say you get different plans that you're selling, so you can do a breakdown of which product or services people mostly buy. Sales rep, who's bringing in most of revenue. From your CRM, if you have a sales funnel, so how many people visit your website, how many people become leads, how many people become customers and repeat customers. So it gives you a breakdown of your funnel there. And then another tool, so basically when I first started a few years ago, I started using Scythe, which we've just looked at. And so this next one is called Clipfolio. Scythe is basically plug and play. You open an account, you create your account, and you connect some data sources, and you display data, and you're basically limited to that. There's a few little things that you can tweak and that you can display differently. But if you're wanting to mesh up data or do some advanced reporting, I've moved to Clipfolio, and since then I've actually moved on to Zoho Reports, because I'm using Zoho CRM as my CRM, so that just worked out that way. But Clipfolio is it's pretty powerful. Like, you can, for example, you can take data from AdWords and Facebook and mix them together, like how much money have you spent across both platforms in one graph. You could take open data, like if you wanted to, you could display the temperature in Queensland and look at the sales that you generated. I don't know if you're selling ice cream, that might be useful, but generally most of those advanced tools is not really useful for, especially when you're starting out, but it's just mentioning it because it's there, and it can be really good. Here it was a sample dashboard for your sales team. So if you got different people working for you and they have a quota of calls that they need to make, products they need to sell, and that's all tracked in a CRM, you could then display the data in a dashboard like this and know where your people are at. Or if you do project management, you've got a number of project managers, you could see how many projects they're working on, how many hours they're logging, how many open tasks they have or overdue tasks, all that good stuff. Again, it just goes back to the KPIs. What do we want to track? What are we trying to achieve? And then how do we get that displayed visually? All right, so another sales dashboard that is set up in Clipfolio. So it's quite similar to some of the other ones that we've looked at. So it's, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different ways how you can display your data, but what it really comes down to is making sure that we've got that initial data that is set up and that we can work with. Activities. So I'm not, again, this is a sample one from Clipfolio, but I'm using one in my own business where I've got open tasks per employee. So I know who has how many tasks, how many hours, how many clients do they have, how many hours have I assigned to them, and how many tasks are overdue. So if there's someone that has tasks overdue and they've been overdue for quite a while, then obviously I know that I need to do something about that. But again, this is total activities, closed activities this month, deals won, open activities. So just set up by person. All right. Again, another revenue dashboard. So this one, I think I like the sales for the last 13 months. Just shows you some ups and downs there. But obviously, if you can start looking at that and then start forecasting it, that'll be super powerful if you've got your current revenue for Q4. So this is obviously an old dashboard. An expected revenue Q4. If you know if you're hitting your marks or missing them, like that'll be a good incentive to keep pushing in, I guess. Okay, all right, so some issues. Okay, I think that's all sorted. I'll just keep going. So some of the dashboard and reporting tools that I've mentioned is obviously, like, we started with Google Analytics. I think if you have a website, everyone should put Google Analytics on their website. So I think you need to know what's going on your website. Sife.com, if you're getting started, if let's say you're running Google ads, Facebook ads, or you're doing anything on Facebook, you've got a website, maybe a CRM, maybe zero, look at Sife. You can sign up for free and create four widgets, is what it's called. And then you have to pay, but I think it's only $20 a month, and you can create unlimited dashboards. So you could have dashboard for yourself, dashboard for your team. It's really powerful, and it's very simple. So there's a lot of things that you can do with it, and I think it's one of the easiest ways to get started. In recent years, Google Data Studio has been released, and initially it was just available to some top to premier Google Analytics accounts. Now it's available for everyone. So that's Google Data Studio is really great to work with data that you have in Google properties. So for example, AdWords, analytics, any data that you can push into Google Sheets. So if you can, like a lot of platforms have options to export or sync data to Google Sheets. So you could use Zapier or Supermetrics or something like that and push data in a Google Sheet. Once you've got data in a Google Sheet, Google Data Studio is pretty epic to create reports and dashboards with. It's a bit like you need to know a little bit more what you're doing. Like you need to be more familiar with Excel and some of those things, but it's free. Definitely worth to check out. Clipfolio. As I mentioned, it's a very powerful way to access data, and it allows you to plug into APIs, pull data into Clipfolio, and then massage the data in their platform and display it in whichever way you like. But it's a fairly advanced tool. Like they're getting better and making it easier, for example, to import data from AdWords and Facebook and like some of your main platforms. But it's still it's a pretty steep learning curve, but if you're a data geek, that's definitely one to check out. Zoho Reports. So I've just maybe 5-6 months ago moved to Zoho, and using Zoho Desk, Zoho CRM, and Zoho Reports. So it integrates pretty well with my CRM, and it allows me to import data from Xero and data from AdWords and Facebook. So for my own business, I use Zoho Reports, but again, it's maybe not quite as steep a learning curve as Clipfolio, but I think it only makes sense if you're using Zoho as your CRM. So if you use Zoho as your CRM, definitely check out Zoho Reports. Otherwise, my main recommendation would be Sife. All right, and the last two are called Dry Run and Float apps. So they're basically Xero integrations, and I think they work with MyOp and a couple other accounting tools as well. But basically what they do is they take your data from Xero, so your invoices, paid invoices, your expenses, like your reconciled line items, all that sort of stuff, and for starters, just displays them nicely. So Xero does some of that, but not quite as good. But where those two apps really shine is in forecasting. So based on your existing expenses and your existing income, you can set, for example, some expenses or invoices to recurring. And if you, probably like it took me when I think I signed up with Dry Run, it took me maybe 2 hours to get that set up, and it gave me a forecast for the next 12 months on my business, how my business is going to do based on some scenarios that I've created. So the first one that you obviously create is this is where things are at, and then you could have an ideal forecast and the worst case scenario forecast where you lose some big clients or whatever. And it basically, you just make some changes, you duplicate what you've set up, and it shows you how your business is going to do in next quarter, next 12 months. So it's I think they're also like 30-40 bucks a month, so it's not cheap, but depending on where you're at, what stage you're in your business, that could be a really good investment to make. All right, so with all the data points, especially if you're implementing a lot of that stuff yourself, if you're using your CRM, like you want to make sure that you've got clean data. Basically, crap in, crap out. So if you, let's say on your website, your Google Analytics is not implemented correctly, what I see a lot of times is that people have 2 or 3 instances of Google Analytics installed. So basically, the data corrects and reports incorrectly. So you want to make sure it's implemented correctly. In your accounting software, you want to make sure that your invoices are updated, that your your line items are reconciled. And then in your CRM, that's where most of the data gets really messy. Is like you want to remove duplicates. So I've put it in there twice, because if you've got 50 new leads or 50 new potentials in your pipeline, but half of them are duplicates, it doesn't tell you anything. So you need to make sure that your data is clean. Same with opportunities and potentials. You want to make sure that you update them. You don't want to leave opportunities open for 12 months if in reality they're already closed lost. So you want to make sure that you do that. Same with tasks, if that's in your CRM or in project management. If you've got 500 open tasks, it doesn't tell you anything if most of them are overdue and most of them are not even relevant. So it's just important to go through and clean up your data, clean up your project management tools, your CRM, and everything that you use to generate that business data. You want to stick to norms, so it's quite tricky if you want to pull a report on your potentials, but they are all named differently. So one might be AdWords, I don't know, AdWords project. The other one might be called digital advertising dash AdWords. Another one might be called digital ads minus AdWords. So it doesn't allow you to pull a proper report. So you need to make sure that you name things cohesively. And then lastly, with closed tasks, like you want to remove any unnecessary tasks if you're reporting on that, and as well as closed opportunities, closed projects, all that stuff that shouldn't be there. It just needs to have the right status. And then just a word on data security. So obviously we're all concerned with our data. Want to make sure that we use good passwords. So what I've seen a lot happen is like using the same password for every platform. So if someone logs into your Gmail account or into your email account and finds all the other platforms that you have access to, and then can use the same passwords, like obviously not a good idea. I've luckily never had any issues with any of my accounts getting hacked. But something that I do is I use a password tool. So 1Password would be one option, or LastPass, which basically allows you to have high security passwords and save them safely on your computer. And you want to make sure that you know who has access to your data. So for example, if you have staff and they have access to your CRM or your accounting tool, your bookkeeper or whatever, and your staff move on, you switch to your bookkeeper, you just want to make sure that those are being removed, and like you stay on top of that. I think that's the main thing that you, or that we as small business owners, need to worry about. I think most accounts get hacked because of weak passwords. Obviously there's always something, some HBO gets hacked or whatever, but I don't think that's something that we need to be too worried about if we have decent passwords. But definitely important to think about. All right, so just moving on to the next section here, open data. So open data is data that anyone can access, use, or share. When big companies or governments release non-personal data, it enables small businesses, citizens, and medical researchers to develop resources which make crucial improvements to their communities. Some of us worry about health records being made open. Some confuse commercial and personal data or mix up big data with open data. So next slide explains different types of data and its uses. So basically on the left-hand side, we've got closed data. On the right-hand side, we've got open data, and there's different stages in between. So closed data would be, for example, employment contract, policies, sales reports, any internal stuff that you only have access to, like your CRM. And then on the right-hand side, you've got stuff that's open to anyone. So bus timetable, you can go to a website and download a whole bunch of information. Obviously, that's open. And then there's different levels in between. So named access, which is explicitly assigned by contract, like driving licenses. So for example, the police can look them up. Group-based access, so for medical research, where medical researchers have access to pool data, but only via authentication. Public access that has licenses that limits its use. For example, Twitter feeds, so we can access Twitter feeds, Facebook feeds, all kinds of stuff that is sort of public, but can be closed, so it's a bit in between there. And a lot of the open data is government data that is anonymized, that has been made available. So for example, as I've said earlier, I've participated in a GovHack, so where the government makes available certain data points. And so you can go to the Australian Bureau of Statistics and just download a whole bunch of data sets. So that's open available data. So in this case, I've just went on there and had a look at postcode 4560. So it's where I live in Blybley, which is part of Nambour. So it tells me how many people live there, what the breakdown is male, female, median age, how many families, how many private dwellings, average people per household, median weekly household income, median monthly mortgage repayments, median weekly rent, average motor vehicle per dwelling. And if you can keep scrolling down, it gives you a lot of data points from the different censuses. So this is 2016 census. There's 20, I want to say 11 and 2001. And then I think that's the main ones that are available at this stage. But basically, you could look at some of the data points and across 10, 15 years and compare them per postcode, or you can compare postcodes to different postcodes, and you can display them in this just on the website, or you can download them in a different data files and then do funky stuff with them. Another one, which I don't know if anyone's interested in this, but it's domestic sales of Australian wine over a number of years, and domestic sales of wine and brandy by winemakers. So that's publicly available if you're interested in that. There's also, I think, a data set about alcohol consumption by postcode. So if you're alcohol sales or something like that. So there's some funny things to look at in there as well. And there's other platforms that make data available. One of them is Statista, but you do need, for most of their data sets, you do need a paid subscription. But I just looked up Facebook's annual revenue, so that's available for free. So it shows you how much money Facebook's making and how they've been growing over the last few years. Then on the right-hand side, you could download that as Excel, and I don't know, put it into Clipfolio if you wanted to do something with that. But obviously, that's just a one-off data set, so it's not an API that gives you live data to play with. And then the Sunshine Coast Council also has a website where they have some data available just relevant to the Sunshine Coast. So I've just clicked on community, and they have Wi-Fi access point, fees and charges, registered animals, all kinds of data sets that are available. So if you're interested in that, I think if you just Google open data Sunshine Coast, you should find access to that. All right, so we've got questions. Yeah, so I think we'll just open it up. I don't know, Yvette, if there's any questions that have been coming through, but feel free to pop in some questions and we'll see if we can answer any of those. All right, so so if you have any questions, please feel free to just type them in. And we still got about another maybe five minutes for questions. While you guys think of your questions, I'll just go back a couple steps and maybe talk a little bit about the open data. Because as business owners, you might be able to find some information that is relevant. Maybe in the census, you could find information about investment going into certain postcodes or certain areas. You could find information about whole industries, like what the revenue or like expenses are, that sort of stuff. So it's definitely worth just digging around and seeing what's out there and how you can use some of the data that is freely available for your business. So yeah. So thanks heaps for the info about Scythe. That will be something I'll sign up for. So definitely, yeah, I recommend anyone to give that a go, because it's, as I said, it takes, in half an hour you can have a dashboard that pulls in information that you probably should be looking at regularly, but don't look at often enough. So if you take anything away, go to scythe.com and give that a go. I think it'll be highly beneficial for you. All right, Yvette, so just are you able to take over to walk us through the Level Up program and what else is coming in for the upcoming workshop and anything else that we have in store? No. Okay. All right. So technical difficulties. So I'll just keep going through the Level Up program. All right. So there's a number of topics and that we've already covered. So basically, level 1, get online with faster internet, learn how to be safe and smart online. Level 2, learn how to work efficiently online through various technologies such as Google Suite, Office 365, other Google products, Dropbox, and more. Level 3, learn about communication and collaboration systems such as real-time messaging, WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger, Skype. Level 4, learn about tools for video conferencing, capturing and editing video, including webinar software, all kinds of good stuff there. Level 5, get started with banking online, gain efficiencies in the way you do your business. So yeah, if you any online banking, like you can fully plug that into your analytics, which is great. Level 6, learn about doing your accounting and payroll online, including syncing your accounts to your website and FPOS transactions, which is, if you're doing that manually, do yourself a favor and watch level 6. It'll change your life. Level 7, document and share your company procedures and systems online through the use of company wikis, Dropbox, G Drive, Google Sites, and more. Level 8, learn how to streamline and automate some of your business operations online through the use of APIs, add-ons, automations, and more. Level 9 was learn how to improve customer experience with your company through the use of online systems such as PBX phone systems, CRMs, and more. So you can already see like how all this like really comes together, and you can step by step really build your business and build in efficiencies. Level 10, do you measure if your customers are satisfied with your service? You should learn how to use online systems to run surveys, polls, and more. Level 11, while they won't be relevant to all businesses, there may be many more systems out there, including learning management, project management, and so on. So check that out. And level 12 was our open data course. All All right, so I see there's a few questions coming through. So what I'll do is I'll just run through this final section, and then I'll just answer some of those questions as they come through. So there's different engagement options. You can attend a free information session in person. And so there's link Level Up Sunshine Coast qld.gov.au, which they're free. Same as the webinar, so go to Level Up Sunshine Coast qld.gov.au. There's workshops that are coming up, so 3.5 in duration. There's one coming up next week about analytics, and we will be setting up some dashboards. So we'll be using going through Sive. So if you're playing around with something from today and you're getting stuck, come along. So there'll be some of the content will be very similar, but we'll have some time to work on your dashboards. And that's $75 per workshop. So that's 3.5 hours. So pretty good deal if you ask me. Attend one or more content webinars. Even if register and don't attend, you can access the recording. So we'll let you know where you can find those. So they're free to attend, or $25 for the recordings. And register for a full program, so you get access to all workshops, webinars, recordings, and mentors. And so that's $295 for yourself and up to 3 participants from your company. Okay, so I'm just seeing here a question about the recordings, where you can find them. So the link, I think I posted, and the recordings are actually free, so you can watch all the webinar recordings for free. All right, so some components in the $295 program. So you get access to all 12 modules, 12 webinars, 12 lesson resources and workbooks, so you can have some resources for your self-paced learning at your own time, and you get regular emails to prompt you to continue with the program, as well as a private Facebook group and access to mentors for $300, $100 a month. Pretty good deal. All right, so what are the mentors? So you can book in a session with an experienced mentor and gain assistance in choosing technologies or in the implementation in your business. So if you need some help with any of the things covered, there is someone there that can help you and walk you through all that. So some people that you'll be learning from is Mick Black, Ben Amos, Luke Humble, and Sean Bannister, and I know most of them personally, so it's a pretty good crew. So definitely good value for your money there. And in the Facebook group, so you get access to that group. You can ask questions, connect, collaborate, and find like-minded people that also want to grow their business. All right, so upcoming, I think most of them have already happened, so you can watch all the webinars. Probably you can find them on the events link and can watch the replays there. Upcoming also, so the one left is workshop 4, which is our data analytics, customer satisfaction systems, open data, and data analytics and reporting workshop next week on August 15. And the cost of that is $75, which is subsidized by the council, or is included as part of your program if you have signed up for that. So again, if you want to register for the program, I think you probably can still do that. You go to levelup.sunshinecoast.qld.gov.au/register, or if you want to register for the event, just go to /event. Cool. All right, so I just want to thank our program partners for making this possible, and the Sunshine Coast Council. And yeah, thanks for joining. I'm just gonna have a quick look if there's any questions that haven't been answered. All right, well, glad to hear that you loved this session, Lyndon. Appreciate it. Yvette, are there any questions that that we've missed or that we need to answer? Yeah, so check out business.sunshinecoast.qld.gov.au. Recordings on the webinars, I would say they're all on Level Up Sunshine Coast www.qle.gov.au/events. Where would I go to find out the number of management consultants working on the Sunshine Coast? Which data sets? Well, yeah, you'd have to look through the ABS or the Sunshine Coast website, data website, to see what data sets are available. The number of management consultants. I'd say you're better off probably looking at data at like Yellow Pages or something and see who's listed there. I'm not sure if the council would even have some of that data. You could also look at ABN registrations. Just on top of my head, there's some places where you could possibly do some research into specific management consultants on the coast. All right, I think yeah, so I think that's those are all the questions. So again, thanks everyone for joining.